Welcome, everybody, to Non-Christian Bible Talk, the podcast where we go verse by verse, chapter by chapter through the Bible and talk about it from a non-Christian point of view. I am not a Bible scholar or a ancient history scholar, so I have to rely on sources from books and the internet. So if there's something I miss or get wrong, please do not chastise me. Just give me a comment and I will go back and edit it. Today we are talking about Genesis 17. There are two key factors in this that is quite important to our story, so let's dive in and we'll talk about it. Because of time restraints, I am not going to read through the verses like I sometimes do. I am just going to put them on the screen and you can read along as I'm talking about them. Okay, verse 1 and 2. Abram is now 99 years old and does have a child at this point with the slave Hagar, and I guess he's still not happy with that. I don't know, but anyway, let's move on. So God appears to Abram at this point. He's still Abram, and says to him that he is the God Almighty, walk before me and be blameless. He is not blameless. I'm sorry. We've seen all kinds of bad behavior from this man, from basically selling his wife to a pharaoh for a bunch of stuff and slaves to saying it's okay for his wife to beat her slave who is pregnant with his child. So, not blameless. I want to point out something real quick here, that God appears to him, or at least talks to him personally. I find this interesting because is he talking about spiritually or in real life? Because I thought we could not behold the countenance of God. Our human minds would explode or something. And then he talks about how if he does all the things, then he will multiply you exceedingly. I'm not quite sure what he means by that, because so far he only has one child, and from what I can see, he's only going to get one more. But hey, we're not that far in the story. Alright, moving on. Verse 3 to 5. Okay, this is when God changes Abram's name to Abraham. The only difference in the two names is that Abram means exalted father, where Abraham means father of many. I think this is a little too blatant, if you know what I mean. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why the name change. I say that, but as I've gone through life and changed who I was and who I wanted to be, I've taken upon different personas and names to fit that. So, okay, in that sense, I can understand. Abram is a new person with a new mission in life, and he is having a spiritual transformation, hence the new name. So, okay. So in my research, I find that the act of falling on one's face is deep reverence, common in ancient ritual to fall on your face in front of someone you really respect. Interesting. Verses 6 to 8. God talks more about making him an important man. Kings will come from you if you establish the covenant, and all your descendants establish and keep my covenant. He says here he's going to give him all the land of Canaan, which I find interesting, that God would be like, here you go. You can have all this. Just for you and your descendants. Okay, in verse 9 through 14 is when we figure out what the covenant is exactly. God says, "This is my covenant, which you shall keep between me and you and your descendants after all. Every male amongst you shall be circumcised." Chong chong. So 8 days after a baby is born, it should be circumcised, and any male that's already born over the age of 8 days, and also any slave or servant should be circumcised. The consequences of not adhering to circumcision are severe, being cut off from the people, specifically a break in the covenant. This highlights immense importance of this ritual. Something I want to note here, that circumcision is not unique to Israel or Israelites. Egyptians and Canaanites already practiced circumcision. It was a sign of purity and was often part of an initiation rite. All right, verses 15 through 17. The covenant also includes Sarai at this point. I find it interesting because God doesn't mention females in his covenant, just males, because I guess of the circumcision. But in these verses, we learn that Sarai is to become Sarah. Again, the name change is not a big deal. It's just from my princess or my lady to princess or lady. God just takes away the possessive aspect of the name. I do find it interesting. God says that kings will come from her. Interesting, because she will have the baby, I guess. I guess at this point, God tells them that Sarah will have a baby, and Abraham laughs. He falls on his face and laughs, which I didn't think it was very proper to laugh at God, but, whatever. And he says to God, he's 100 years old, and Sarah is 90. Is that even possible to have a kid? Or why would they have a kid at that age? I don't know. Okay, some little notes here that I want to make is that Ishmael, the son of the slave, is not included in this covenant. He is going to be given 12. He's going to father 12 princes, which I am to assume at this point that we're talking about the 12 tribes of Israel. And Ishmael is going to be inheriting all of Canaan. So I see some separation here, a little prejudice towards the different sons already. I don't know how that will play out in the future. We'll see. Anyway, that is chapter 17. Again, not a lot going on here, to me, as far as story, but as far as religious purposes, I guess it was a lot. We find out the origin of circumcision. We find out the origin of Abraham as a whole, and the concept that he is the father, I guess, is what a lot of people say, of many religions. So yeah, we learned a lot as far as some backstory, but as far as movement in the whole story, I still don't see that we learned a lot. So anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed today. I didn't have a lot to say. I'm sorry. There wasn't a lot to add. So let me know in the comments if y'all enjoyed. I will be back next week with Genesis 18.